Chris with CJM Industries. In this video I'm going to show you how to install our new front lip on a MK7 GTI. This is made out of a thick high-density plastic. It's got a light texture to it, the edge is radiused. This matches all of our existing side skirts, both the CJM and the berrybacker. This is thicker than the original berrybacker front lips, but we did reuse the mounting holes, so if you already own a berrybacker front lip, you can swap to this one without drilling any extra holes. So I'll show you how this goes on the car. Show you the whole part here. We have the bottom. You'll see the branding and the model are engraved on the bottom. You won't see that from the top. This is what you would see on the top side. This is inside the bumper. It goes on the inside of the bumper cover just to reinforce that. You can see all the hardware we have here. And then the edge detail is just finished with a radius, and this will match all of our skirts. The only tools we're going to need is going to be a drill and a driver. If you don't have a driver, ratchet works fine. T25, T30, 13mm wrench, and then drill bits. I got a 6 and an 8mm. If you don't have metric, get a 1/4 and a 5/16. I'm going to show the hardware we're using. This is all stainless. It's Torx drive T30. We have bolts coming up through the lip. I showed you earlier that the bottom is countersunk, so you'll know that's the bottom. This spacer is going to go on. You're going to put this into the bottom of the bumper, and then we have a secondary spacer that has a notch in it. That's going to go inside the bumper on top. That just spans the rib running right here, and then this top plate goes inside the bumper as well, and then our bolts are going to go on top of that. So it's going to be hard to see some of this once it's in the car, so I wanted to show you here first. And then out on the outside edges we have a shorter bolt with a washer and a nut. That's all that we need out there. The last piece of hardware we have is this guy. It's a T25 washer, and that's going to use one of the fender liner screws just to set our alignment, so we don't have to measure where this needs to go. So this is just going to thread into the factory hole that we pulled the factory screw out of. Under the car we only have to remove a few things. We're going to use a T25. There's 3 screws across the front here for the core support. There's also 3 across for the bumper cover. We got 2 on the fender liners each side. You got 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, I believe it is, for the side panels. This car's cut up, so I can't count the exact number there. And then 1, 2, 3 across the rear of the subframe. That'll let you pull that panel off, and it'll get these fender liners flexible enough that we can reach in here. As we put this in place, we want the countersunk holes and the engraving to be face down. I'm going to start by the outermost corner here where the fender liner goes through the bumper. We're going to use that as our reference hole, and we're using that self-tapping screw with the washer. I put an extra block in here just to push this up tighter to the bumper. It's just going to make it easier to get my holes in the right spot. We're going to start with a 6mm drill bit. If you don't have a 6mm, go 1/4 inch. And then you're also going to need an 8mm. If you don't have an 8mm, go 5/16. We're going to drill through these holes into the bottom of the bumper. Once we remove the lip, we'll then come back with a larger drill bit, drill those out slightly larger. That'll make install easier once we have to line up all these bolts at the same time. I removed the lip again. I switched to my larger drill bit, again 8mm or 5/16. I'm just going to go through those holes and enlarge them slightly. Before we put the lip back on, I'm going to install these spacers. These are ABS composite, it's 3D printed. I'm sure someone's going to comment on 3D printing not being strong enough. This is in compression, not holding any load whatsoever. The bolt is going through 2 thick pieces of plastic. This is not going to break. So we got a bolt through. The hole in this solid one is undersized, so we're going to stick that on there and thread it on. And that's going to stay in place when we try to lift this into up to the car. It'll make your life easier installing this. We'll do the same on the rest of these. So that's all we're going for. All right, so you have all 5 of our center spacers. Again, these are the solid ones. You should still have 5 of these left. These are going to go inside the bumper cover. I have the lip back in place with the spacers already in there. I have the 2 outside fender screws attached. You'll see that none of my bolts are actually poking through the bumper yet. I'm gonna now just kind of wiggle this thing until I get everything lined up enough that I can push it through. Cool, now we can put the inside ones in place. It's being held up there right now just by the friction on those center ones. So I'm gonna get these side ones in place. These are gonna get the shorter bolt with a washer and then a nut on the top. Now before we put the inside spacers in, we're gonna make sure this is tight to the bottom here so that our bolts stick out enough. We can put everything on the top side. I'm gonna use a piece of tape here, just painter's tape. I'm just gonna stick it on there to hold this up. It'll just keep a little bit of tension there. If you have like a squeeze clamp, you could do that too. And now I'm gonna put these spacers in, the little notched ones. We're gonna go between the lower bumper cover and the core support and reach in here. And we're just gonna get that onto both bolts. You got 5 of them here. This is probably the hardest part of the whole install, is getting your hand to fit in there. But instead of removing the bumper, this is kind of what you gotta do. One thing is you're trying to get those spacers on the top and then the plate also. You have this flap radiator shroud piece. The bottom of it's kind of rubbery. If you reach in here from behind and pull it towards the outside edge of the car, you'll have a little more room to get your hand in there to fit those bolts and then slide the plate in also. Once you let go of it, it's gonna kind of spring back where it should be. It does make contact there, but because it's flexible, it's not an issue. Last piece is gonna be the larger top plate, sandwich plate. So after fighting your hand in there to get the spacer and the plate, we're now at the easy part. We're just gonna tighten all these. We're using a serrated nut, so it's actually gonna bite the washer in this case, and then the plastic along the center. So I'm just using an impact. I have it at setting 3, this is an M12. I'm just gonna spin it until it grabs. Once it grabs, I'll do another full turn. That'll be plenty of torque for this. All right, all those grabbed. If you have an issue and they don't grab, you can stick a 13mm wrench in there just to grab the nut, just to get that started. At this point, we're just gonna throw in the OEM screws for the fender liners, the front tray, or the front bumper cover here, and then we'll put our subframe panel back on, and then this install's done.